Well, I think I brew beer in part to connect to other peoples who have brewed beer throughout the history. It satiates a certain creative impulse that I have. Um, I'm able to make something in an interesting way, and then I get to enjoy the benefits of that product. Part of the product is something that's slightly intoxicating, and then it's also a food product that's really enjoyable. It's also a way to test my skills and in something that I can increase my skills at. It's also something that I hope to do in the future that I can make a living off of.
It's also got to be healthy at its grassroots. And for me, there's nowhere better to relax with a pint of sociable English bitter than in a good, unpretentious local pub.
Raw grains have been set in water that is warm. They start to repropagate, that is, they go to reproduce themselves. So they start, enzymes in the grain start producing higher levels of starch, and they go to resprout. Right before they sprout, they are then dried and kilned. That is, they're kind of baked or they go in an oven. So that converts them to malt. Then you take malt and you put it in water, and essentially you're trying to raise the temperature of the malt to somewhere between 140 to 160 degrees. Within that 140 to 160 degrees, enzymes in the grain convert the starches to sugars, simpler sugars that can be fermented by yeast. After you've converted the starches to sugars, you separate the water from the grain. The first process I was talking about is called mashing, and then the next process where you're separating the grains from the sweet liquid is called sparging. You're essentially using the grain as a natural filtration system as you wash water through it and collect sweet liquid, which is then referred to as wort. Wort is unfermented beer. Then you would take that and you put it in a kettle, like we're doing right now, and you would boil it. During the boiling process, some other things are happening. You're sterilizing the beer, the wort, namely, and you are also adding hops, which are your bitterness, flavor, aroma, a lot of these different things. The hops are what balance malt sweetness. So you're able to balance out sweet with bitter. So once the boil's done and you're finished with the hops, you'll then cool the beer very quickly, so none of the natural organisms that are in the air, other wild yeast, contaminate your beer. And then you'll get it to a cool enough temperature where you can pitch your yeast. You pitch the yeast, then the beer ferments. The yeast is producing CO2 and alcohol, namely, and the beer dries out. CO2 and alcohol is produced. Then essentially you would bottle it with fresh yeast and priming sugar and cap it. Again, a secondary fermentation goes on in the bottle, and you have a bottle of beer.